Hey, what's up everybody, Nexel here. Today we are playing Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, and I'm going to be talking about the new Supernova ++ Key R23 medal that just dropped yesterday in Global. So first things first, I'm always a huge fan of the key art artwork. It's always symbolic of some time in Kingdom Hearts history. In this case, we've got the cover artwork for Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, and let me just show you all what it looks like. So first of all, this looks like the HD remaster version because the colors are so vibrant. But this is the artwork. It looks super good, and again, monumental times in Kingdom Hearts history. However, good artwork and then giving good memories is unfortunately not enough to recommend pulling for a banner. So let's go ahead and talk about the banner itself first. So first things first, you have until June 15th to decide if you want to pull, and that is a lot of time. That is 13 more days, and 99% of the time, like I am about to do right now, I recommend waiting until the last day before pulling for this medal. The reason I usually recommend waiting until the last day is because so much stuff can come out between now and June 15th. We could be getting new avatar boards with great skills. We could be getting a trade sale in the Moogle shop. We could be getting a new banner with a new busted, broken buffer medal potentially. So I always recommend waiting until the last day for a banner, just so you could see everything that's available to you, and then you can see what is more worth your jewels, because remember, jewels are the highest value item in this game, so you always want to make sure you are spending them wisely. So that's why I recommend waiting until June 15th before you decide if you want to pull. Looking at the banner itself though, it's pretty standard stuff at this point. So every time you pull, you're spending 3,000 jewels. You guarantee yourself 3 Kingdom Hearts 3 medals, which are going to be Supernovas you might want to keep. It's going to be sub slots for your Keyblade, or it'll be draw points for the draw points banner. You guarantee yourself 1 trait medal for a Key R23. 6 general medals that are going to be 5-star or higher. Again, these are really going to be mainly for draw points to get a better medal down the line. And you also get 10 VIP coins with every single pull. Remember that VIP coins essentially translates to a trait medal. However, you have these VIP coins until the end of the month. So if you don't want to use them on Key R23, you could use them on whatever's available at the time. So you can use them on this Sid if you wanted to. You could use them on a future banner if you wanted to. Just know that you have to spend the VIP coins before the end of the month. Every single pull on the banner also gives you 3 speed gems, which is just a nice little bonus to make pulling from the banner more worth your jewels. Lastly, you are guaranteed a copy of Supernova ++ Key R23 within 5 pulls. Now, we'll talk about the draw odds now just to get it out of the way, but the draw odds are very bad. This is another banner where you have to anticipate, you have to expect that you'll have to do all 5 pulls in order to guarantee yourself the medal. Don't bank on getting it early. Don't bank on getting on the first or second pull, because odds are you're not going to get it. You have to always make sure you can mercy the medal. The rule of thumb is if you can't mercy the medal, you don't pull for it. Just keep that in mind. For the newer players, make sure you always keep that in mind. That's going to be a very good piece of advice moving forward. But that's it for the banner. Let's go ahead and talk about the medal itself. So I made this template and I showed it off the other day in the live stream. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on in this template. I know there's a lot of words, there's a lot of line, there's quite a bit of color in there, but hear me out. The reason that I made this template is because there are so many mechanics in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. It's very hard to keep track of all of them, especially whenever they display like a medal effect. It comes by in this text, and if there's... Wait, let me actually remove this. So it displays it in text that can move really quickly. Like, for example, let's take a look at Elsa here. It's like speeding through all of this text, and you have to keep pausing it in order to read it. And I feel like that can get kind of annoying, even when looking at it in the shop. So if we look at the details, yes, you can read it like this, but it's still a lot of text. So the reason I made this template is because it just makes it easier for me to see everything. It shows you everything the medal does. It shows you everything the medal doesn't do, which I also find important, because the less a medal does, the sooner I feel like that medal is going to become outdated. So that's why I made this template. Please let me know in the comments what you think of it. If you think I should keep using it, if you feel like it helps you, if you feel like it's just too much, just let me know what your thoughts are on it, and that'll help me move forward. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at Key Art 23. So Supernova Plus Plus KR23 is an upright speed metal. It is going to hit all targets, and it has a base strength of 47,460 without any strength traits. And that's about the standard for today, that 47,000. The multiplier is going to be 20.8, which is actually pretty good in my opinion. I know we have things like the Gambler that reaches as high as 28 multiplier, or Kingdom Hearts 3 Dark Riku that can reach as high as 25 multiplier, but 20.8 multiplier is pretty good when we pair it with ignoring target's attribute. I'll get into that a little bit later, but because this metal ignores attribute, it pretty much makes that multiplier 41.6 all the time, which is actually really, really good. Whenever you activate this metal special attack, it's going to cost you 6 gauges without a gauge reduction skill, and it looks like we are back to a time where the gauge cost for metals is going to be high. It's been like this for about the past month, where we got metals like Kingdom Hearts 3 Dark Riku that has a gauge cost of 6, the Reaper had a gauge cost of 4, Illustrated Sora that just went away had a gauge cost of 6, even Xemnas, the Supernova Plus Plus Xemnas, had a gauge cost of 3, which is that borderline between being low gauge cost and high gauge cost. So it looks like we're moving into another format where we're going to have some high gauge cost metals that are going to be the new meta. In terms of the special attack though, we're going to move on to that top box there. It is going to activate for 2 turns, so it lasts a 2-turn buffer. In terms of the buffs, it gives you plus 15 general strength, plus 15 upright strength, and plus 15 power speed magic strength. So it's not giving you any reverse buff whatsoever. However, it does give you pretty much perfect buffs for the rest of them. It will also give all metals a base strength increase of plus 3,000. That's really good because remember, whenever it's metal strength plus 3,000, that means it buffs anything that comes after it. It doesn't matter if it's reverse, power, magic, that metal is going to receive that 3,000 buff from KR23. If KR23 has extra attack, it's going to be plus 6,000 for the turn, and because it's a 2-turn buffer, if it has extra attack, it's going to give you plus 12,000 generic metal strength by that second turn. So every metal is going to be getting plus 12,000 after activating KR23 with extra attack on the second turn. So that's actually pretty good numbers there. Activating the special attack also gives you special attack bonus plus 200%, but that doesn't really matter because Supernova attacks, we rely on them to give a special attack bonus plus 300%. In terms of debuffing, the metal does not debuff at all with its special attack, meaning that you're going to have to debuff the enemy before you get to KR23. So you'll need something like Kingdom Hearts 3 Kyrie A with extra attack, or you'll need something like Kingdom Hearts 3 Nominate to buff yourself before you get to KR23 in order to make sure that KR23 does the most amount of damage. In terms of the effects of the special attack, it increases the count of the enemy plus 1, which is pretty okay. I mean, it's nothing new and it's very common with upright metals. It's more rare for reverse metals. So giving count plus 1 is okay. It's pretty decent. And it ignores target's attribute. This is going to be pretty much the biggest selling point for this metal. Remember that ignoring attribute means that the metal will always do super effective damage against the enemy. As a speed metal, normally, if it's paired against a power enemy, it's only going to be doing times 0.95 the amount of damage. It's not getting as much damage as it possibly could be. However, because this metal ignores attribute, it doesn't matter what attribute the enemy is. They could be magic, they could be speed, they could be power. It's going to be doing super effective damage every single time. And remember, we did this in a past video. Super effective damage is times 2 the amount of damage a metal would normally do. That's why I said because of the ignoring attribute, it makes the multiplier essentially 41.6, which is a high multiplier. So ignoring attribute is going to be the main selling point of this metal. Moving on to the Supernova attack, it is also going to be a 2-turn buffer that doesn't give any multiplying buffs. So no strength buff, no upright buff, no reverse buff, no power speed magic buff, no defensive buffs, nothing. However, it does give generic metal strength buff by 6,000 for 2 turns. This is okay. This is about the standard we're seeing is a 2-turn buffer that gives some form of metal strength plus 6,000 for 2 turns. So nothing particularly special there. Special attack bonus plus 300%. Again, nothing particularly special with that. In terms of the debuffs though, the Supernova attack will give minus 15 general defense down, minus 15 upright defense down, and minus 15 PSM or power speed magic defense down to all enemies, which is pretty much perfect debuffing for everything that is not reverse. So when we look at the special attack and the Supernova attack, if you get to activate them both in the same turn, you've got perfect buffs for general strength and defense, upright, and power speed magic. The only thing you're missing at that point is reverse, which again can be very easily compensated by something like Kingdom Hearts 3 Xion or by Kingdom Hearts 3 Naminé. But all in all, it's got some pretty decent buffs. Remember though, the Supernova attack, you only get one activation per quest, so you can't rely on this Supernova attack to give consistent debuffing in something like a high score challenge where you have to fight multiple enemies. So just keep that in mind, you can't be reliant on this metal's Supernova attack in order to give you debuffing. So other than that, it does nothing else. There are no additional effects. It doesn't increase the count, it doesn't do any defense boost piercing, it doesn't heal anything. So all in all, just very generic high damage metal. It's a very, very generic high damage metal. That's what I have to say about it. So in terms of my thoughts and recommendations, I don't recommend pulling on this. There's very few scenarios where I recommend pulling on it, but on average, I don't recommend pulling on it. Remember that the Xemnas that we just got, the Supernova Plus Xemnas, that was a metal that also ignored attribute, but its stats were generally better. So even though KR23 is a 2-turn buffer, whereas Supernova Plus Xemnas is a 1-turn buffer, the buffs were higher for Xemnas. Xemnas gave a base strength increase to all metals of plus 6,000 with extra attack that's plus 12,000 for 1 turn. That means you're getting to that plus 12,000 metal strength increase in 1 turn with Xemnas that takes 2 turns with KR23. And that could be very important because in some scenarios, you want to load all your damage into 1 turn. It's important for things like Colosseum, where you want to defeat enemies in 1 turn. Or things like PvP, where you want to front load all of your metal damage into 1 turn, because sometimes the 2-turn buffer doesn't work in PvP. Sometimes you get a Diamond Dust going into a Lady Luck, and your magic 2-turn buff is not going to help you really with Lady Luck. So sometimes you want to put all that damage into 1 turn. And going into the Supernova attack too, Xemnas gave metal strength increase plus 10,000 for 1 turn, whereas KR23 gives metal strength increase by 6,000 for 1 turn. So Xemnas in general had better numbers than KR23. Xemnas also fit a niche, because reverse metals there's only so many reverse metals out there, whereas there's a gajillion upright metals. So Xemnas fit a better niche than KR23. So Xemnas's buffs are better, he fits a better niche, as opposed to KR23 that there's so many upright metals at this point, and there's so many 2-turn buffers at this point. So really, if you don't need the ignoring attribute part, this is a pretty easy skip for a lot of people. This metal doesn't really introduce anything new. As you can see from the effects in both the special attack and the Supernova attack, it doesn't really do much else. It's not like Elsa that gives more utility beyond the buffing. It's just straight damage, big, giant, tanky numbers with a high multiplier that does super effective damage all the time. So all in all, I find this just to be a really vanilla damage metal. So in terms of people I recommend it for, first of all, I recommend that you have at least, after you pull, if you want to pull, you at least have 15,000 jewels. That is the minimum I am going to recommend if you plan on pulling for this metal. You want to have at least 15,000 jewels because something's coming. Something soonish. I'd maybe say maybe in July. Something crazy is going to drop. And you want to make sure you at least have enough jewels to do a 5 mercy pull to guarantee yourself that metal. Realistically, if it's going to be a game-breaking metal, it's going to be a 10 mercy pull. So you're going to need 30,000 jewels. So no matter what, if you're going to pull for this, I recommend by the end of it, you have some means of getting back to 15,000 jewels pretty readily. So that's my first recommendation. But if you want to pull, who do I recommend this for? I recommend it for newer players. So newer players can benefit a lot from this metal because you're going to use it to pass a lot of content. Having a metal that ignores attribute means that you don't need to buy a bunch of other metals to compensate for weakness. So for example, let's say in 1 month there's a lot of power enemies, and then in the second month there's a lot of speed enemies. Having a medal that ignores attribute is going to cover you for both of those months, as opposed to having you're going to need a magic medal for this one, you're going to need a power medal for this one. Having a medal that ignores attributes covers both of those months, and that's why it's pretty good for newer players, because it's a medal that can fit in multiple different scenarios. It could be your damaging medal for those multiple months until you can get yourself up to speed. Being able to pass content is important, and being able to make sure you're able to save jewels is important. So as a new player, I could recommend this because it's going to do a lot of damage and carry you through quite a few events here. I also recommend it to people who are going to raid. So remember that raiders love the ability to ignore attribute, because it means no matter what the enemy has in terms of attribute, in terms of if it's going to be power, speed, or magic, if it has multiple limbs that have different attributes, having the ability to ignore attribute means that the raiding medal, this as a raiding medal, does super effective damage against everything that raid boss has to offer, and it means that you don't need to keep changing your raid setups. You can use the same medal for different months, for different weeks, even if the enemy changes attribute. So raiders are the second group of people that would benefit from having this medal. Lastly, I recommend this medal to people who have a weak speed or upright setups. So because this medal can fit on like things like the Sleeping Lion, it could fit on, actually it could even fit on the Missing Ache in that second slot, because it has that generic metal strength, because it has the ability to ignore attribute, it's actually a really decent upright speed medal. But no matter who I recommend it to, so raiders, new people, people with weak speed upright setups, I always want you to know that 15,000 jewels is the safe amount to have. So even if you pull for this medal, try and have at least 15,000 jewels by the end of it, because again, something is likely going to come up in the next month or two. I don't know if it's going to be tier 11s. I don't know if it's going to be a new buffer like a new Kyrie or a new Xion or something like that. But try and save at least 15,000 jewels if you plan on pulling for this medal. So really, it's a skip. On average, it's a skip. If you want to pull for it, again, just wait till the last day. There's no real reason to want to pull for it immediately, unless you're like a super whale. You can get jewels really, really easily. I always recommend waiting till that last day to pull. So with that being said, that's the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, let me know in the comments below whether or not you like this template or not, whether or not you find it easy to visualize what a medal does and does not do. Just let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are, or if you have any questions or concerns. If you want to join my Discord, the link is right down there in that yellow box. Just type it into your URL and it should pop right away, because it's a permanent invite. But that's all for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, until next time, take it easy.